Hey, give me some skin. Welcome to So Big Movies. My name is Len Archibald and welcome to the Blaxploitation Hour. I hope everyone had a safe and happy holiday season. Over here at the Blaxploitation Hour, we're getting the year started off right by highlighting a movie a few people have suggested here on the channel. And this movie is exactly why the Blaxploitation Hour exists.
King of crime is born.
Black Cæsar, from, of course, American International Pictures, is considered a staple of the blaxploitation genre. The film was written and directed by B-movie maestro Larry Cohen, who started out as a television writer for NBC, but cut his teeth as a director, helming such memorable projects like Bone, the It's Alive series, Q the Winged Serpent, The Stuff, and penned the underappreciated Phone Booth. The script was originally meant to be a project starring Sammy Davis Jr., who wanted to break away from the Rat Pack and didn't want to be seen as a flunky to Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin. Cohen suggested a gangster picture, similar to Little Caesar from 1931 that starred Edward G. Robinson. Cohen envisioned Davis working his way up the Harlem underworld. By the time Cohen completed a treatment for $10,000, Sammy Davis Jr. was unable to get involved because of his issues with the IRS. Cohen was eventually approached by Samuel Z. Arkoff of AIP, who wanted an action movie with a black star to cash in on the new blaxploitation craze. To play the role of Black Cæsar, Cohen cast the iconic Fred WIlliamson. Williamson was originally signed undrafted to the San Francisco 49ers. During training camp, he was switched to play defense, where he played with so much aggression that the coach instructed him to stop hammering his players. So was born his nickname, the Hammer. After a stint in the NFL, Williams played 4 seasons for the AFL's Oakland Raiders and made the AFL All-Star team in 3 successive years. Williamson became one of football's first ever real self-promoters, leading into the Hammer nickname and persona, even predicting to knock out the receivers of the Green Bay Packers before Super Bowl I. Which didn't work out too well for Williamson, as he was knocked out in the 4th quarter in a losing effort. Similar to the path running back Jim Brown took, Williamson took the path to become an actor. His early work was in MASH, as Spear Chucker Jones, which, wow, that name. He would appear in television on Star Trek and Julia. After playing an escaped slave in The Legend of Nigger Charlie, he would be cast as the iconic black gangster. Williamson would not only become a blaxploitation mainstay, but would in fact become an iconic figure when it came to exploitation and grindhouse films, period. Appearing in several iconic titles such as One Down, Two to Go, Through the Hard Way, Take a Hard Ride, The Bronx Warriors, From Dusk Till Dawn, the original Inglourious Bastards, Bucktown, and the sequel for Black Cæsar, Hell Up in Harlem. Williamson has had another career as a director and producer, moving to Italy and forming his own company, Po' Boy Productions, with several titles under his belt, such as Mean Johnny Barrows, Adios Amigo, and Death Journey. Most of his latest output has been mainly direct-to-video, but Williamson remains an active filmmaker to this day. The music for Black Cæsar was mainly produced by James Brown, his first attempt at scoring a film with input from his bandleader Fred Wesley. I mean, I don't have to explain to y'all who James Brown is, do I? I guess there are 1 or 2 people out there that are like, who? Well, if you've listened to any hip-hop since its inception, you have most likely heard a James Brown song. I am certain he is the most sampled artist of all time. James Brown is perhaps the central figure to bring funk music to the forefront with a litany of nicknames, which include the hardest working man in show business, the Godfather of Soul, Mr. Dynamite, and Soul Brother #1. In a career that lasted more than 50 years, he influenced the development of several music genres, and he was one of the first 10 inductees into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Come on, man. Papa's Got a Brand New Bag, I Feel Good, Sex Machine, The Payback, It's a Man's World, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. These are not just staples of black music, but music, period. I'm sorry. If you haven't heard of James Brown or any of his songs, I'm just going to explain that away as willful ignorance. And I absolutely adore the score for Black Cæsar. The music just works to complement Fred WIlliamson's swagger along with giving Harlem some life. Yes, I remember the important date of September 5th, 1953. This was the day my mother discovered high heels, and our family has never been the same since. Speaking of shoes, we are introduced to shoe shiner Tommy Gibbs, played by Omar Jeffrey in his only major film role. He convinces the most obvious goon standing around in Harlem to shine his shoes.
Good. Okay, make it snappy, kid.
All we need is an Artful Dodger and Fagin, and we got Oliver Twist. Wow, that was a dated joke. As Nick Offerman emerges from the shadows, we see the look of a man who realizes he left his gas oven on and his entire family is inside. And his wife smokes. It looks like Tommy is setting him up for a hit, but really, this guy didn't pay his fee and Tony won't let him get away with it. The goon is gunned down, and Tommy decides now is the perfect time to change careers and become a track star. All to the tune of James Brown. And yeah, someone gets shot in broad daylight and most people are like, meh. Welcome to 1970s New York. Similar to Cotton Comes to Harlem and Shaft, Harlem is introduced as a character in this story. Come on, son, let me show you the right way to do blow off a hooker's asshole. And we get a real sense of the bleak nature of Harlem, as this particular part of New York just feels grungy and almost abandoned at times, almost like a proto-Escape from New York. Tommy knocks on the door and the man behind it is Captain Jack McKinney, played with absolute menace by Art Lund. Lund was a high school math teacher who bet on himself and his baritone voice, and wound up working with big band leaders Benny Goodman and Harry James before pivoting to Broadway and eventually television and film, with credits that include Black Cæsar, The Last American Hero, Bucktown, where he collaborated with Williamson again, The Private Files of J. Edgar Hoover, and It's Alive 3. McKinney instantly makes himself a hated villain.
You know that niggers aren't allowed in this building?
Jesus, dude. Slow that racism down to at least the speed limit. McKinney threatens Tommy, then stalks him down the stairs when he declares $50 is missing from the envelope. This whole sequence is shot like an urban nightmare, with Tommy getting roughed up by the corrupt chief, and with each descending step, the issue escalates. McKinney simply lied, so he had an excuse to beat another black kid into oblivion. Not even Oscar the Grouch wants to fuck with McKinney. Tommy, with a broken leg, is laid up in the hospital. His best friend, Joe Washington, played by Michael Jeffrey, enters. Joe, someone who is obviously socially awkward, lets Tommy know that none of his friends want to be around him. And Tommy, a real friend, is like, fuck those guys. You're soul brother #1 to me. Tommy formulates a plan for the both of them to learn business practices.
Before I see you again, I want you to get laid.
This is someone who just saw Shaft and his mind was blown. 2 days after my birthday, but over a decade before I was actually born, we are introduced to a pair of feet walking, but those feet belong to an adult Tommy, played by Fred WIlliamson, and let me just say, whatever workout plan Tommy had going on, I want some of that swole shit. Meanwhile, A truly detestable racist goon, Grossfeld, played by Patrick McAllister, who was in It's Alive and Beware the Blob, sits in a barber chair as Tommy enters.
Take your time. Want Mr. Grossfield to look his best with his friends and relatives.
Who the hell are you?
I honestly love this scene. Williamson immediately owns it with his presence, and with each second that passes, the scene escalates in tension.
Keep right on working, boys.
The other thing I always noticed when I was younger watching this was seeing Grossman's face, as in some shots he was cut up and then in other shots he was not. Curse you, why do you make me love movies so much?
I'm just as nervous as you are. This is the first time for both of us.
So was Fred Williamson auditioning to play the Joker? Tommy guns down. Tommy guns, seriously? Which one of you fuckers wrote that? Grossman is shot to death, and in the chair, I guess it's really gross. Man. Oh, God.
Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right.
Shots of feet. Ear dismemberment. Huh. Tommy arrives for an impromptu meeting with Cardoza, the local mafia don, played by Val Avery, who appeared in hundreds of movies and television shows in a career that spanned 50 years.
Jesus Christ!
Sauce looked like it needed a little more meat.
It is hilarious that once Tommy acknowledges he's the one that assassinated Grossman, suddenly dropping his ear in a plate of spaghetti isn't so offensive.
Want something to eat?
Pepe cubatelle e un piatto di rigatoni.
Well, shit. Now we can't talk behind his back. Why is jive so hard to learn?
You know, I never heard no dinge speak Italian before.
How many of us do you know?
Your kind has no guts.
Today, saying that to someone's face ends in a headshot. Tommy reveals that what he wants to do is control a piece of property in Harlem. Cardoza implies there may be some people that may need to be bumped off to make that work.
So I put in a little overtime.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. That takes us to arguably one of the most famed scenes in the film. The montage that shows Tommy's rise in Harlem to the tune of The Boss by James Brown. We see Tommy strut down past the Apollo Theater before cutting to his real feelings on Ford trucks and pool. We also start to see his real feelings toward women, and let's just say it starts off as problematic, then falls off a cliff. The Lannisters are so cruel to display all the afros they have scalped in the name of expanding King's Landing. Hey, how you doing? I'm stabbing your ass. Ow, why? I think Tommy just had a non-flashback about his days as a shoeshine boy. We are introduced to Reverend Rufus, Tommy's brother, or so-called brother, played by the incomparable D'Urville Martin. And I can't believe it has taken this long to spotlight this guy. D'Urville Martin is a blaxploitation god. In addition to appearing in films such as Black Like Me, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, and Rosemary's Baby, Martin appeared in some of the most popular titles of the genre. Hammer with Fred Williamson, Book of Numbers, The Legend of Nigger Charlie with Fred Williamson, Five on the Black Hand Side, Hell Up in Harlem with Fred Williamson, Sheba Baby, and Blind Rage with Fred Williamson. But perhaps most notable in Martin's career, he is the man who collaborated with Rudy Ray Moore to direct and give us Dolomite. Rufus, Tommy, and an adult Joe, played by Philip Roy, who had roles in Mean Johnny Barrows, The Learning Tree, and The Black Godfather, meet up with Alfred Coleman, well-connected lawyer, played by William Wellman Jr., who is in over 70s film and television projects, another actor who is attached to the It's Alive franchise. And what a weird thing for this movie to be connected to. Tommy unveils his master plan. When he was younger, he remembered the mafia had two financial ledgers, one that was legitimate, and one that showed the payouts to all sorts of corruption. If he is able to gain those ledgers, it will give him enough leverage to run the city. Richard Gere is on board and decides that once those ledgers are in Tommy's possession, they will meet again. This takes us to our literal red room of goons, auditing over the books while Tommy rides in downtown Harlem to prepare. Meeting Tommy at a nightclub is singer Helen Bradley, played by Gloria Hendry, who I recently spotlighted in Black Belt Jones, and what a crazy departure this is for her. Already, Tommy asserts his dominance over Helen as he pretty much forces her to play a tune on the piano.
What do you want to hear?
Doesn't matter, just make it loud.
Now that's the Gloria Hendry I love.
Whatever you do, don't stop playing.
This is honestly a tense moment with Hendry singing. You could tell Cohen was a great genre director with how he was able to work with little moments of suspense. And Williamson is also able to sell the moment as he knows that after doing this, there is no turning back. It's not Al Pacino contemplating his life before murdering a drug dealer and a corrupt cop brilliance, but it gets his point across. And just like in The Godfather, Gloria Hendry did not listen to the instructions given to her during the assassination. You had one job! Tommy approaches Helen and basically does the me man, you woman, me get fire so we make big fire together spiel, and Helen, oh yeah, she so wants to go. I have a feeling that they will have a long and fulfilling relationship full of compassion, trust, friendship, and love. Now that Tommy has a hold of the ledgers, he has a firm grip on Harlem, and he has so much influence, he is able to own rental real estate in white neighborhoods. And we get a great reintroduction between Tommy and McKinney.
Somebody called down for a shine?
All blue chip companies, preferred stocks, bonds, mutual funds.
Better than the envelope under the table, right, McKinney?
I love that a part of Tommy's revenge on McKinney was to make him rich, or at least give him the perception that Tommy was working to make him rich.
You gave me my education, now I'm gonna put your kids through college.
Yeah, that stung a little. Tommy struts his way through Coleman's apartment like he owns the place, which becomes fact in 60 seconds as he outright buys the place as is. Art, clothes, maids, and all. Well, shit, if it's that easy. I'm buying you out. Ow. It's not that easy.
Alfred, I think we better go before you get hurt.
Everyone is thinking it, so I'm going to say it. That woman is very curious about Tommy's guns. God damn it. Myrna Hansen, who plays Mrs. Coleman, was crowned Miss USA of 1953 and was cast specifically by Cohen as they had been neighbors for years.
Sleep well, Mr. Gibbs. I hope you like the mattress. It's very hard.
Nope, too easy. Now, Tommy, I don't know what you expect from these crack science experiments, but dropping mink coats from high places won't bring them back to life. We are introduced to the maid of the apartment, Mama Gibbs, played by Minnie Gentry, who appeared on Broadway and such films as Come Back Charleston Blue and Grease Lightning.
You sure treats me good. Tommy.
And we see exactly why Tommy chose Coleman as his lawyer, and it is at this moment Black Cæsar kicks up a notch as the full scope of Tommy's revenge against the system is revealed.
I bought it!
Tommy is just a mama's boy who wants to give his mother what she couldn't. But her refusal is heartbreaking.
Why, they'd hang me off that terrace. Jewish folk ain't even allowed in here. I'm a maid, Tommy. never could see that.
I'm honestly happy my mom doesn't have this kind of mindset. She knows her worth, and if she's given something, she's not too proud. Happy birthday, Mom. Tommy hosts a party of strange symbolism, and man, did Tom Jones get around. And apparently his voice isn't the only banger. Rufus is preach hustling on the corner when Mama Gibbs abruptly appears in honestly a pretty powerful and complex moment, as Rufus is being duplicitous to his mother as well, and either she is in denial about it or is just latched onto the fact that one of her sons is just wicked. Tommy sets up a meeting with Cardoza, who is still amazingly offensive.
They're really wonderful and they work cheap. Hey, who says Lincoln freed the slaves?
And it boggles the mind that people spoke so casually like this in front of our faces just even 50 years ago. But surprise! It was a setup, and Tommy gets the upper hand.
You black bastard like a Peter! Do this to me after I gave you your chance.
Who else I'm gonna do it to, huh?
Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Fred Williamson's performance is one part compelling and one part curious. If you pay attention to the way he speaks, his inflections, it's clear Williamson is trying to sound like a Black Sicilian. And I've had fits over this. Is the film saying that Tommy had to shed or conceal a certain part of his blackness to move up in the world? Is there a level of cultural assimilation or appropriation that is actually necessary to move up in America? These are legit questions I got from the movie. At the same time, it could simply be Williamson doing a James Caan impersonation. At the same time, Cardoza over here is corpsing like Al Pacino would in his later years as an actor. Hey, who's playing this Nina Rota ripoff music cue on the record player? We are transported to perhaps the most Italiano set of all time. So much wine, so much antipasta. But all of that is a distraction from Tommy's men just showing up in the trunks of cars, on rooftops, and in the fields, just picking up goons one by one. I hope you're gonna clean up this mess you all made. No way should a pool boy have to clean up brain matter. Tommy arrives at McKinney's to gloat, but McKinney is certain Tommy's actions in California will get him assassinated.
I guarantee it. You're one dead coon by the end of the week.
And McKinney is a corrupt, racist asshole who deserves everything that's coming to him. But even I agreed with him and was like, Tommy, slow your roll. And that is ultimately the point of Black Cæsar. Tommy isn't a good guy. He hasn't been a good guy from the start. He was poor, but he has always been ruthless and, like a particular scar-faced villain, wanted the entire world, and that seemed to not be enough to quench his thirst. Tommy is now at the height of his power, with control of all the black ghetto sections of some of the largest cities in the country. But that power means nothing if his bed is cold. Unless you are at least a third-degree black belt in Jeet Kune Do, Gloria Hendry wants nothing to do with you.
This is the only way you like it, huh? You have to be raped.
Don't come back to me. I don't have a joke about this shit. And as a character by this point, Tommy has become pretty irredeemable. Reverend Rufus is at a nightclub doing his thing when a man claiming to be Tommy's father appears. Mr. Gibbs is played by Julius Harris, who was in more than 70 movies, including playing Tee-Hee Man in Live and Let Die, Scatter in Superfly, and Inspector Daniels in The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. Harris would appear in tons of Blaxploitation. Shaft's Big Score, Hell Up in Harlem, Let's Do It Again, Friday Foster, and Trouble Man, just to name a few. Please, one at a time, with more feeling. You are the worst hype people in history. We get a nice, honest scene between Tommy and his father, who says he has no right to judge what Tommy does for a living.
And I've been waiting 25 years just to kill you.
Run, motherfucker!
Tommy can't bring it to himself to kill his father, especially once he realizes why he never got any money from him while he was in the military.
What are you gonna do now? Kill your mama?
This movie's getting a little too serious. Makes it a lot harder to make fun of. Tommy anticipates that things are going to get messy in Harlem, so for Helen's sake, he suggests Joe to take her to California where they both can be safe and to set her up under a record label. And yeah, even from the first time I saw this movie, I knew that was a dumb idea.
Mama's dead.
Tommy's mother passes away and yes, song, I get it. Mama's dead. There is such a thing as being too on the black nose. But it is the moment that sparks a bit of Rufus's own redemption and opens Tommy's eyes to the fact that he's always been a piece of shit. Mr. Gibbs is the bravest man alive as he returns to Harlem, but even he knows under these circumstances Tommy isn't in a murderous mood. And we get the precise moment where Tommy knows that despite having it all, his life is fucked.
Would you like to come stay with me, Paul?
No.
Tommy returns home to find Coleman's wife and, today of all days, ain't that a bitch? After her advances are rejected, she, of all people, decides to drop what we all knew was coming. Joe and Helen are fucking in California. Now, how she knows that, why she knows that, what purpose it serves for her to share this information? Who cares?
I want my clothes back.
Fuck off. In California, Tommy storms in expecting a Pornhub exclusive in his main foyer. But what happens is way better in how anticlimactic it is in its reveal, and the look on Joe's face as a man who knows he's about to jump into the lion's den. She's still worth it! Honestly, I don't see what Tommy is so mad about. It's not like they had a healthy relationship from the start. Wait, didn't I make some prediction? Ah, fuck it. You know shit is serious when the wig comes off. Again, really dark.
All you wanted was money, cash, to live in Whitey's house.
If you only knew how to fight, Joe, you could have owned the whole town and everybody in it.
I never wanted to own anybody.
You know, if anyone had the balls to remake this, I would like to see an expansion on Joe as a character. Seeing Gloria Hendry go from frisky, badass, and playful in Black Belt Jones to this absolutely vulnerable and devastated individual is insane and showed what kind of range she had.
I hated my head.
We get a meeting of the minds between McKinney, Coleman, and Irish Bryant, played by James Dixon. And what did I say about Tommy hating pool? This is exactly why. The three of them plot to get the key to Tommy's safety deposit box to get his ledgers via a phrase Malcolm X used that made white America shit itself at the time. We get a montage of some of Tommy's men get gunned down. McKinney arrives to confront Helen and find Tommy and threatens to link Joe to Tommy's organization. Art Lund is diabolical here, acting all friendly with Helen's baby while we know he is racist trash and with an underlying threatening menace. Again, did Tarantino have a fever dream about this movie and took parts out for Inglourious Bastards? Tommy has reached rock bottom. Lenny Williams is serenading to a broken psyche. Helen makes an appearance and Tommy has a look of both this bitch and oh my god, please take me back. The next scene I can't show, but I assure you, my 15-year-old self when I first saw it was like, what? Then the next scene happened where Helen tried to get the keys for the safety deposit box and man, did that make me feel 50 shades of dirty. Coleman gives a call to McKinney to let him know he had no trouble getting the ledgers from the safety deposit box, and he walked away with $50,000 in cash. I don't know why he would have admitted that, as McKinney would have never known, but whatever. The next scene can also make a claim for being arguably the most iconic of the entire film. Tommy exits Tiffany's with a gift for Helen, And we should have seen what was coming by now by how rude these sort of New Yorkers are. Shortly, Tommy is shot on the busy streets by a cop. As the boss plays, Tommy lays on the streets and all of New York is basically telling him to walk it off. Which he does. So in 1970s New York, a guy gets shot and everyone just observes. Why, oh why do I believe that if this exact same thing happened today, the only thing that would be different will be the cell phones being out. Also, I concede, Tommy should have bled out and died by now. Of course, Williamson did such a great job of concealing the shot, it's almost like the makeup department didn't apply it on his wardrobe. That's dedication. Tommy makes a point to stand beside obvious thematic material before he limps on. Tommy hops in a cab, but is spotted by some goons.
On his tail, step on him.
And finally, let the chase music begin.
You stop me, what you slowing down for? Get past that garbage truck.
One of the things I do love in this movie is Williamson's ADR work. He is working overtime to sell his desperation. Hey man, I can't drive on the sidewalk. Here's $500. Yoink! Sidewalk City it is!
Step on it, man! Step on it! Jesus Christ, man! They got guns!
Hey, I believe him. The taxi driver gets shot. If you're not going to drive like you just got $500, I guess you never deserved it. And Tommy locates one goon and chokes him out in the streets. I don't know what I'm more perplexed by. The murder in broad daylight or the billboard with smoke billowing out of it.
Don't disturb my friend. He's dead tired.
I don't know if this guy was an actor. While Reverend Rufus is rehearsing his best Reverend Brown from Coming to America, Tommy arrives. Tommy doesn't understand why his world is coming apart, and Rufus loses his goddamn mind.
Vengeance is his!
Vengeance is mine! Man, once you're in the cult of the Wicker Man, you're in it for life. Helen and Joe are hanging out with their kids when Joe calls. Helen does the right thing and hangs up. But Tommy calls again. Joe indicates that as long as Tommy still has the ledgers, he is okay. And Helen, now will be a good time to say something. Coleman is trying out his new makeup kit from Spirit Halloween as McKinney is ready to take out whoever stands in his way. But first, a post-murder, pre-gay murder cocktail. Meanwhile, at You Better Open Your Fucking Mouth.
You can't save his life.
Why? Why'd you say that?
Nothing.
Oh my God, woman, are you trying to get him killed? Joe arrives at Coleman's building and runs into McKinney, who informs him that Helen had set Tommy up before getting his brains blown out. Which I think is supposed to be ironic because his nickname in the movie is The Brain. Sometimes I look for things in movies that just aren't there. It's fun. Tommy arrives at Coleman's office and by this point, there would be an autopsy being done on his body. We get a final showdown between Tommy and McKinney, where McKinney has the drop on Tommy and wants to offer up one final humiliation.
My shoes are all scuffed.
Now McKinney just goes full-blown supervillain here, because if he just killed Tommy, this would all be over, but nope. And Tommy beats the ever-loving fuck out of McKinney. But before he does, he dons some Finn Balor wrestling face paint.
One of them good old minstrel tunes, huh, McKinney? I bet you even like Joe, son, huh?
And then Tommy loses his goddamn mind, beating McKinney to death with the power of black PTSD. Tommy takes the ledgers and exits, finding Joe. Tommy limps his way back to his old neighborhood, which he will become more familiar with in 1990, the Bronx Warriors. I think if Tommy was able to speak English and not the movie's score, these kids might have more sympathy for him. But it indeed paid the cost to be the boss, as these kids basically beat Tommy to death. It didn't matter that he had those ledgers. They didn't protect him in the end. We also end the movie on one of the weirdest title cards in history. Okay, so August 20th, 1972 is an important date that will live on in infamy. I think? I suppose? Anyways, End scene. Writer-director Larry Cohen claimed that while filming in Harlem, the local gangsters threatened to disrupt the shoot unless they were paid. Cohen offered them small roles in the film instead, and that opened up all sorts of access. Larry Cohen even put those gangsters on the Black Cæsar poster. The original cut of the film with Tommy being beaten and killed by the street gang was changed to omit that sequence, appearing only in European releases of the film until it was restored for home video release and now is generally accepted as the official ending of the film. Cohen claimed that Black Cæsar did so well, bringing in over $2 million in box office receipts in North America, that a sequel was immediately greenlit, and Cohen started without a script and made up the story as they went along. The result was Hell Up in Harlem, which contradicts the film's original ending, and in some ways seems to exist in a completely different universe. Upon release, the reception for Black Cæsar was mixed, with praise for Williamson's performance and Cohen's gritty direction, but some also felt it was derivative of the gangster genre, and some even opposed what they believed was a black male criminal stereotype being glorified. There is a bit of controversy surrounding Black Cæsar that is similar to Brian De Palma's Scarface, where there is a small contingent of fans who glorify Tommy Gibbs' lifestyle. But no, let's get this clear. Tommy was a horrible person. He made choices in his life that basically destroyed nearly everyone within his orbit. The score for Black Cæsar, specifically The Boss, is one of the most sampled works for hip-hop, with several MCs and DJs transforming James Brown's work to fit their own artistic vision. In the UK, the film was released in cinemas as Godfather of Harlem. And here is how I would rate Black Cæsar out of 5 Black Power fists. Story: 4 out of 5. Black Cæsar is a hard-hitting gangster picture with grit, and a passionate performance from Fred WIlliamson kicks this movie into another level. Art Lund is a highly detestable villain that makes you root for Tommy Gibbs, even though he as a character is highly flawed himself. But this is more than a gangster picture. It is a statement on black revenge and black anger. But as a gangster picture with a Blaxploitation bent, this is one of the better ones. Filmmaking: 3.5. I really like Larry Cohen's blunt filmmaking style here. When we talk about a typical movie from the 1970s, the tropes are all here, down to the bummer ending. But Cohen and his team are able to craft a grungy gangster epic that is definitely more than the sum of its parts. Soundtrack: 4.5 out of 5. As a Blaxploitation soundtrack, Black Cæsar is amazeballs. It is essential James Brown listening with some iconic tracks that should be a part of anyone's funky Spotify playlist. The score has a life to it that matches the chaotic and in-your-face nature of the film's protagonist and the Harlem in which he resides. Top shelf stuff here. Black Power: 3.5. So here's where things get a little tricky. Tommy is a strong black male protagonist with ambition, and he climbs the ladder to defy white America. But he did so through crime, bloodshed, and ruthlessness. He rapes and beats his wife. He was an accessory to murder when the film began. He got his best friend killed, who didn't get much development of his own. So I'm gonna go a little halvesies on this. Negative stereotypes: 3 out of 5. Honestly, the same applies to the negative stereotypes. It also didn't help that poor Gloria Hendry didn't have much agency either, so I'm going halvesies on this as well. Influence: 4 out of 5. Black Cæsar is a seminal film of the Blaxploitation genre. It was the breakout role for Fred Williamson. It put Larry Cohen at the forefront of grindhouse and exploitation filmmaking. The film had some heavy hitters in the genre, like Gloria Hendry and Derville Martin. There's a reason why a lot of people think that fondly at this film. Overall fun factor: 3.5. So I had to do a lot of thinking with this, and I'm giving Black Cæsar a 3.5. Now, Black Cæsar is a great film from the Blaxploitation genre. It hits what it needs to, but would I call Black Cæsar a fun movie? Not particularly, and that is in some ways a credit to the film, because Tommy Gibbs is not a fun character to watch, and this story is more of a cautionary tale than a straight actioner. It is certainly different in tone than Hell Up in Harlem. It's always great to go back and revisit some movies that I hadn't seen in a while. It's been a minute since I watched Black Cæsar, and man, I kind of forgot how blunt this movie was. But it was the 1970s. If a film wasn't a blunt, soul-crushing experience, it wasn't doing it right. What Blaxploitation films would you like to see spotlighted on the Blaxploitation Hour? Share your thoughts, leave your comments, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell icon so you can get notifications as well. And that's the skinny. Hey, catch you on the flip side.
Vengeance is his, vengeance is his, saith the Lord.